When you have to shoot, don't talk.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us for another Trap House podcast. My name's Justin Jett. Today we have a great trapper with us. We're going to talk about several topics. Skye Goode out of Wisconsin is going to be with us, and we're going to talk to her about, like I said, several things. So sit tight for that. But first, we got to say thanks to the sponsors, Top Lot Stretcher Company. Check out their website. That's toplotstretcherco.com. They make the adjustable stretcher that we always talk about and support. But they have a whole line of trapping supplies, so you can go through their website, check their store out. Stuff for skinning and fleshing. They have some really nice push pins that they sell. You just surf their website, check it out. And also Hags Bracket. Jeff Haggerty supports us, and we support him, maker of the Hags Bracket there. His website is j3o.com. Check out their line of stuff. They got numerous great products, all American made, good stuff. Thank you, Jeff, for the support. Also, we have Weeby Knives, their website, weebyknives.com. Several knives to choose from, some with replaceable blades, fixed blades. They got this new setup for deer hunters. It's got bone saw in there with a gut hook and a couple other knives with it, and very reasonably priced quality knives too. Can't say enough good about them, and I'm glad we have them on board. Also, gotta say, last but not least, thanks to Hoosier Trapper Supply supporting this podcast and getting this thing off the ground. Our website is HoosierTrapperSupply.com. It's the maker of Top Dog Predator Bait and Jet Fuel Predator Lure. We got trapping kits, everything you need in the trapping field, as well as deer scent. We do some taxidermy too, so if you're local or want to try us out, you can look us up, give us a call. All right, I think that covers it. Let's dive into the conversation. All right, we're here with Skye Goode. We're going to talk about trapping and all kinds of good stuff. Thanks for joining us, for being on the show for the first time.
Yeah,
representing for the ladies. So we usually kick these off kind of with some sort of background. You want to tell us how you got started in trapping and where you're from?
Sure. Yeah, so I'm in central Wisconsin here, and I grew up in a hunting, outdoor family. And my grandpa and uncles always had rats and coon drying, in the basement or wherever. So I wasn't a stranger to fur. We did a little bit of trapping on my the hobby farm that I grew up on. Like I can remember getting a mink or a weasel or a coon here or there just when they were bothering our farm. But I didn't actually get into trapping until I was in the last years of college, and I bow hunted just outside of the city there, and I shot a buck, and it really a liver shot. So I waited till the morning to go get it, and all the meat was ruined by coyotes. I actually kicked the coyotes off when I was recovering it, and that was like my moment of I want revenge on these coyotes. And I'd only called coyotes before, so I didn't really know much about trapping, and this was later in the year. And trapper ed instructor friend of mine said, why don't you do your trapper's ed and go trap them all winter, and that way you don't have to be done being in the woods, because after bow hunting I didn't really have like a winter hobby other than rabbit hunting. I would just wait till spring turkey, so it was just another excuse to stay in the woods all year, and then I really just wanted to kill all those coyotes. So that's kind of how I started. And of course I failed that first year. Looking back on all the sets I made, they were just so silly, and of course I didn't catch anything. They're ridiculous, but I learned a lot. And the second year then I got really serious about it, and I think I caught 15 or 20 that second year. So it's like I figured it out. But I started big on coyotes, so then I had to work my way down. So I remember trying to get my first mink. It was really challenging. So yeah, that's kind of how I started, and that was I think maybe like 12 years ago now. So
yeah.
It's funny that all these trappers nowadays start out trapping coyotes, and then they scratch their head on how to go catch a muskrat or something, so we see that all the time.
Yeah, most people start out on those easier ones, and that's what we suggest in Trapper's Ed. Like, don't go after coyotes, don't go after wolves or whatever when we had our season, but start on coon or muskrat, because at least you get some catches right away and you can get that confidence built up. But at the time, I wasn't looking for to be a great trapper. I just wanted to kill any coyote that was coming in the area. So I didn't care if I shot it or trapped it. I just wanted them gone.
So, you went to Trapper's Ed. Then did you have a mentor, or did you just self-taught, or?
Yeah, so my friend Dwayne, he was a trapper ed instructor, and he used to do a lot of government or trapping for the state, like nuisance beaver and stuff. So he's the one that actually I called that night for blood tracking advice, and then he led me to that. And then once I became a member, let's see, so that I took Trapper's Ed, and then I went to my state convention, and that's where I bought all my trapping supplies and stuff the following year when I got really serious about it. At the convention, I learned to join the Wisconsin Trappers Association. They had a booth there, and I wanted to be part of it and learn more. And then through the Wisconsin Trappers Association, I met Larry Betcher, who's a Wisconsin Hall of Fame trapper. And he is, one of the three, Leo Hess, Trapper Art, and Larry Betcher. And we still have Larry with us. And he invited me to come to his house one day. As a new trapper, I knew nothing. I was just a young girl. He's like, I want to know what you know about trapping, and I want to teach. So he just invited me to come over. He was putting up all of his fur, and he was kind of finishing out the season. And I was only supposed to be there for an hour, and I went home very late at night because he just showed me a condensed version of his 60 years of trapping in one day, and it was just the most amazing thing. And I still credit. My cousin traps, and I have other people, and Hoofbeats of a Wolfer is a book that I really have read a lot, but it was Larry Betcher's day of training, I guess. He didn't have to do that. It wasn't some kind of paid class or whatever. He just wanted to, and I can't even count the amount of information that I learned that day. So that's what I credit for I guess after that first year of not catching anything, it was because of Larry's advice that I did better.
Well, and clearly, once you catch one or two, you kind of get over this hump. Even though you still got a lot of things to learn or sort out, you probably found that to be true. That once you have some success, my
head could not fit through the door. Once I caught a few coyotes, I was like, I am such a good trapper. I know everything. And so that confidence boost, you get knocked down eventually. A coyote teaches you, nothing. But at least those first 4 or 5, I was like, oh, I know what I'm doing. I can do it. And so that confidence boost led me to be more, bold and risky in the sets I was making, and it, or add more. So it definitely helped. But yeah, quickly knocked down off my pedestal for sure.
Yeah. That's great. So I think I saw it last year. You've caught some wolves up in Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I took a gamble. We had a wolf season back in, I think 2013 is when they shut it down. We had it for 3 years. I didn't get a wolf tag, but I had 3 points. So when this last wolf hunt, the controversial February one, opened up, you could choose to either take a point or go for a tag. And every single trapper in the state said, that's dumb. We're not going to trap wolves in the end of February, when it's the worst trapping conditions. Every trapper I know took a point, and I quietly applied for a tag, and then I got a tag, and I didn't tell anybody. I told maybe my employer because I took off work, but I didn't tell a single soul. And everybody asked, did you get a wolf tag? And I lied and said no, because I didn't want anyone to follow me, put pressure on me. I don't know. I was really paranoid about it. And I didn't get a wolf because, it closed within 24 hours or whatever it was. But I was really kicking myself because we were supposed to have a November 6th wolf hunt here in Wisconsin. And I was like, well, I blew it. I should have waited till November. That's when I usually catch the most wolves, is in November. and I thought I blew my opportunity, but here the judge shut it down on November 3rd, I think, 3 days before the season, and we don't have another hunt scheduled. And that, so in hindsight, I'm like so thankful that I at least went for a tag and tried. I think I got like 24 sets out that day because, the first day it opened, trappers had a disadvantage because we spent the day setting, whereas hound hunters and stuff could just bring out of the gates, go kill them. I think I set like 24 traps, and when I got back to the truck after my last one, I heard on the radio that my zone closed.
The same
That was done. That was a little bit hard. I was exhausted, So, but yeah, no, in hindsight, I'm glad I tried at least,
So did you have to go right back out and pull all of them immediately?
Well, you got to check that next morning. You got until 10 a.m. So the zone's always closed by 10 a.m. the next day. So I got that trap checked, but I have that first night, worst night rule. And as a trapper, we're trying to pattern animals in their natural state. And that day, wolves are just being run back and forth. I mean, our hound hunters here are very good at what they do because they can run coyote and bobcat. So it was perfect wolf or hounding conditions. So yeah, the animals that I was trying to trap weren't anywhere near, my traps anymore. So yeah, I got that morning check, but then I had to pull them all. So, but yeah, I mean, we have a lot of them here. I catch a lot of incidentals, and I just have to, I always record them and release them because, I mean, that's kind of become my big thing is recording my releases. I don't just do it because it's cool or whatever. I mean, it gets a lot of attention, but my ulterior motive is to show that you can release incidentals without them being hurt, because a lot of people think they're gonna whatever, all the the myths about breaking legs or chewing feet or whatever it is. So if I can just show in a video unedited, like I had a wolf video, I released the wolf and then without cutting or anything, just reset the trap and put my hand in it to show there's really no way to refute that that the traps don't hurt. So that was kind of my big motive on. So I don't mind when I catch wolves now, just because I can have that educational piece when I release them. So.
Yeah. What trap are you using for wolves in particular?
Well, I mean, my coyote bobcat trap, I love the Bridger 2 dogless. I do have a lot of a dozen of the Duke 550s, though I like those too, but the Bridger 2 dogless just always has been, I'm just a creature of habit, and it was the first few years that I ran dog traps, I didn't like that the dogs always got bent and all that, so then I tried dogless, and I have traps now that are, 7-10 years old that I've never had to do anything to. So for me, I'm really lazy and I just want to spray paint them the night before season and throw them in the ground. I don't want to mess with them. So that's what I like to run.
Right. So going back to the wolf quota being filled so quickly, they actually went a fair amount past the projected quota on that. Is that correct?
Well, boy, that's probably, could we talk about politics or something more controversial? Probably the most controversial topic in Wisconsin right now. I think, talking about deer hunting or thing. So as far as trappers are concerned, and I don't remember the numbers since then, a year now, but we had a quota to fill, and the tribal, they were able to take their take, but they chose not to fill them. So over the quota, we only went like 9 over or something. Okay. But when you look at once you take the tribal tags away and it cut it down to like 100 wolves that non-tribal could get, it makes it look like we went 118 or whatever over. But the state still said we wanted 200 wolves killed, and we killed 211 or whatever. So when you look at dead wolves, we had only over by a few. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, okay. I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's
not like this unwritten thing that we were supposed to assume that tribal tags weren't going to be filled, but you don't know that. We don't really, at the time we didn't know the stance of the tribes. Were they going to harvest them because they're for their own purposes, or were they going to just sit on the tags? And so afterwards, you learn that they were going to sit on the tags. Well, then. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. I'm not a very political person, so if we know that travel tags aren't going to be filled, why do we make the quota including travel? Like, shouldn't we just make it a different quota to make it less confusing? But
Right.
I don't know. It's such a hot button this year.
I didn't mean to quite get into that can of worms, I guess, but so what will you have a wolf season this year then?
Oh, so we're supposed to have it November 6th, and a judge in California shut it down. You know, we need another topic. Yeah, it makes no sense. You know, a federal judge not even in this state shuts down. They don't know what we're living with. It's so frustrating.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just keep saying like, oh well, like I'm still catching wolves. I can't target wolves and I can't kill wolves. Still catching them, and you know, as trappers, like it's not even about harvesting. Really, like the second that you walk up on the animal, that's when you feel like you're the completion of the hunt, I guess. So even when I have to release something, you know, it's a pain, like wasting my wax dirt or wasting my time having to redo the set, or when wolves come in, nothing else is in the area for a couple weeks. So I know that, you know, once I see the wolves, then I'm like, well, my traps will be empty for a few weeks, you know. But it's still exciting just to catch when you make a catch on them. To see them up close like that is pretty. It's not scary. It's just like a powerful experience, I guess.
So we don't have wolves here, obviously. So when you have wolves in the area or they're moving through the area, does that typically push the other predators out then, like you were coyotes, etc.?
Yeah, so definitely coyotes and fox and everything. The only critter that seems to hold their own against the wolves are big bobcats, you know. So you know, it's not uncommon after a fresh snowfall to have wolf tracks and a big tom come through in the same night. They seem to be able to, you know, keep the wolves away. But yeah, if I have a pack of wolves come through or whatever, I won't see any coyote, fox, any sign of anything for weeks. So they definitely make an impact.
So typically, how often do wolves come through? That's probably may depend on the area, but for instance, in your area,
yeah, in the fall. Yeah, in the fall, you know, the early trapping season, you just have those lone males that just got kicked out, you know, from their summer home packs. So there's always just some lone males coming through. And then as we get into breeding season, you know, the wolves and coyotes have the same breeding season after the New Year. So then you have more of pairs running together, big males. Like after the New Year's, when I would catch the bigger males, and they're just peeing on everything, you know. They're just they can't resist any stump poses. It's just, you can't keep them out of your trap, because no matter if you're using, you know, a gland lure, urine, anything, they're just and I've tried everything to avoid wolves too. I've tried putting the trap within an inch of my backhand. I've tried blocking them in really hard. I just tried everything, and you just can't. I think because we don't have enough practice on purposely catching them, I can't figure out a way to avoid them, you know, because they get caught in every single set. So I don't know. There's no way to keep them out of there other than just not trapping. But you know, a long time ago, I used to have like wolf country spots. So if I just didn't trap there. But now the whole state is wolf country, so you can't avoid them, you know.
Yeah. So you had mentioned you wax dirt. Obviously, you fight a much harsher winter than a lot of trappers do. Is that kind of your go-to for keeping your land sets going? Was the wax dirt, and then do you snare when the weather gets really rough, or?
Yeah, so you know, I've tried everything from like buckwheat hulls and peat moss and everything. Wax dirt is just the greatest. Your odds are the greatest that your trap will work. Like, for example, we just got 12 inches of snow, and it was single digits, and now it is all melting, and it's going to be almost 60 degrees and rain, and then we're getting a cold front coming in. It's going to drop down to 5 degrees again. So there's no good way. I mean, I'm even going to have to probably redo some of my wax dirt sets, because they get that layer of ice, the freezing rain on top, which fills the critter up. So, but yeah, I have a cement mixer, and I just make a good like 100 gallons of wax dirt to start my season, and it usually lasts pretty well. When we had that wolf hunt the end of February, which was unexpected, nobody knew we were going to have it. I was making Wexter like in my oven with a turkey roaster and everything, because I was completely out of supplies that late in the year. But yeah, actually December 1st is when we can run cable restraints. You know, we can't snare here, but we can use cables, which have the relaxing lock, which is actually my preferred method when the conditions are right. When we got that 12 inches of snow, I was just sort of waiting for them to make trails, and then now it's all melting. So the conditions aren't right now. But once the snow gets deep and they stick to all the trails, it's really, we can't entangle. So you can spend an hour looking for 2 places to put cables in a property because it's got to meet all these long regulations. But when you do, it's like a guaranteed catch. You know, you don't have to wait long. So yeah, I actually prefer cabling.
Does Wisconsin require a specific class to use a cable restraint?
Just our regular trapper's ed. So our trapper's ed is, I mean, as far as throughout the nation, I know a lot of states contact our trapper ed coordinator for materials. And the last few years since COVID, we've been making like online videos to explain our regs, because we have a lot of phrases like entanglement or recession or site exposed bait that a new trapper, like a 15-year-old trapper, is not going to know what having a recessed conibear means, you know. So we've been explaining a lot of them through video use. But yeah, you have to have, if you're not a landowner, like a landowner that wants to trap a weasel in their chicken coop doesn't need trapper's ed, you know, or a farmer wants to trap some coon in the corn, they don't need trapper's ed. But if you want to do you know, the big time trapping, and we have the 3 species that need tags, the bobcat, fisher, and otter, require trapper ed, and it's a 12-hour course. So it's usually over the course of a whole weekend, but it's really expensive, and we teach everything a person could need to know, including the cable restraint. So
okay. So then I take it you were a trapper's ed instructor as well.
Yeah, yep. I just recently, in the last like 5 years, became an instructor, and I don't do a lot of classes. So this sounds selfish. I don't do a lot of classes around here because I don't want competition. I'm a public land trapper, and I don't want everybody in my community trapping. But I'll go do classes a few hours away and help you know, other trapper instructors. And we just did a big women's camp the first time this year. So I'm okay with that. But I don't really want anybody trapper certified in my area.
You need to be a trapper's ed instructor in a different state so you can.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, I'm willing to drive a couple hours, you know.
We've typically we've trapped Arkansas for a number of years, and I know we've created a lot of our own competition down there because we put it on YouTube and it gets out, and then we've run into resident and non-resident trappers down there that, you know, took a lead from us, which I guess in the scheme of things is just fine. I guess I'm glad to see the involvement, but and it's kind of like Steve Brunel. I think they've created a lot of their public land hunting competition just because of the promotion that they've given it, you know. So which
and it still boils down to like I'll see online a lot of people saying, like, if you want to throw your bobcat tag, they're like, well, go to Clark County, there's a girl over there that traps and releases a lot of them. And I'm like, well, yeah, but it's still like I work really hard. Like, I'm not just throwing a trap in the ground and getting lucky. You know, if a girl can do it, you can do it. Like, I'm really working really hard to be successful. So good luck. If you want to come here and try to trap a bobcat, by all means, come do it. But you know, there's things like Waxter and just, you know, there's just a lot involved that sometimes when you, I guess, have a little bit of success, it makes it look easy, and then everybody thinks they can do it, and you know, they kind of get frustrated, you know, that when they have some mistakes. But
yeah. So do you water trap as well?
I don't like to get in the water. I do all my otter and beaver traps from the bank, from the shores. Okay. I do a lot of like cast around, but I don't like to get in the water. You're not going to find me in hip waders like out in the marsh. But I set a lot of streams, culverts, that kind of thing. But okay. I'm just not a water person. So
that's kind of us. We'll get in there.
It's lot of work. I mean, I've done a few nuisance beaver jobs, and I don't, like I said, I don't go all the way over to the lodge or anything like that. Like, I'll just set caster mounts from the shore. But gosh, beaver trapping is a lot of work. Like, I get how people, especially down south, a lot of you guys can make a living out of it because of the problems that you have. Here in Wisconsin, we have really relaxed beaver laws because of the damage. But what's great about having 6 months of winter is if you don't feel like trapping in the summer, you just wait till January, February, and you can dynamite the lodge, and the wolves and predators can get all the beaver that week, and they're gone. Then problem solved. You don't have to go through all the work of trapping them. So that's nice that we have that. It's like our one relaxed law here.
I can only imagine blowing up the beaver lodge.
That used to be.
Oh, it's cool. Yeah, you should look up some videos.
Yeah, when I was a kid, you could just go to the hardware store and buy dynamite. I mean, I guess it was very common. I mean, it wasn't a big deal.
Oh.
So,
talk to us about the fur hats you make. I always think they look nice, and I know some people that bought some. I'm gonna have to have you hook me up.
Yeah, so I started out doing that actually when I had my youngest son. I was on maternity leave and super bored, and just started sewing. I couldn't work like a month before he was born, so it's kind of stir crazy, and just started to sew a baby blanket for him, and it kind of took off from there, doing hats. I never wanted it to be like a business, so I still maintain that it's a hobby, because that way I can tell people no during turkey season. I can tell them no during deer season and trapping. Like, if it's a business, you have to be more better customer service. But at least now I can say no, I just don't want to, and I can turn people away. But yeah, it's nuts. I didn't realize there's not a lot of people sewing fur anymore and making garments, and so the need is so high. And with the fur market, I don't even send any fur to auction anymore. I used to send all my coyotes to NAFA and then tan the rest of the critters. And with NAFA going down, I mean, I still send some to fur harvesters, but I just decided to tan it all, because a few dollars and a little bit of waiting to tan it, and I can turn it into a hat and make such a profit off of it like that. I don't know why people don't do that more, and it all boils down to putting in more work. And people want to bring a frozen whole coyote to the fur truck and get $100 bill. It's just not gonna work like that anymore. You have to put some work into your fur. So that's kind of how I started, out of boredom, but also I just wanted to normalize wearing real fur. And it gets cold here, and so there's no way I can't plow snow. I can't be outside unless I have a fur hat on, or I just freeze. So I don't know. I think people are starting to realize that too. So but I don't do anything else. I don't do mittens or vests or anything like that. I just, like I said, I didn't want it to be, I have a real job and I have kids, and I still enjoy being outdoors, and sewing, it takes a lot of time. So I usually just sew at night when we're just sitting on the couch watching TV. I can't sit still, so I'm sewing while we're doing that. So it's very relaxed, and I only put in an hour or two each night, and that's about it.
Are you hand sewing or machine sewing?
Oh, it's my thing that I refuse to get a sewing machine. So I do it all by needle and thread, just because I'm stubborn. And I just, I just want to be able to say that, you can't ever get a truly handmade thing anymore. Everything's machined in some way or another. Even using a sewing machine, you could say it's handmade, but it's still made by a machine. So I just, out of stubbornness, I just like to do it with needle and thread.
Okay. Well, there's a lot to be said for that. So that's cool. So
it's a good excuse to not pump out a lot of hats. I can say, no, sorry, it takes up too much time. And
yeah, I've tried to do a few things of my own, and even as a taxidermist, I can't seem to sew a hat properly. Yeah, don't look too close at the detail. It's not very pretty.
That sewing fur is definitely, and has got a learning curve for sure, because of the direction of the furs need to lay the correct way. It can't, you can't. So I think there's a lot to it. And I think that probably a lot of people are maybe overwhelmed or intimidated just to even try it, or if they try, they get frustrated easily and don't pursue it or whatever. But with this present fur market, I'm assuming that there will be probably more people attempting some alternative use. I know, like Moyle Tannery or whatever got way behind a couple of years ago just by overwhelmed by the amount of fur that they received, I think primarily from trappers. So clearly lots of furs getting tanned a lot by the people that caught it, so it's
yeah, we used to have a good tannery here in Wisconsin, and they had to shut down because they couldn't find enough employees to keep going. I send all mine to Moyle. Yeah, it's just always good quality. I know the women's trap camp that we did in September, we did a whole night of fur sewing. So I've got all the extra supplies and like pre-cut stuff. And we had like 24 or 27 women go through the camp, and they all made, like, whether it was a headband or a hat or something. So yeah, at the beginning of the night, it was like really fumbling, like trying to figure out how to push the needle through, and it's like wax thread and the fur grain and all that. But by the end of the night, all these women made these beautiful hats, and it was like, and so now they're still sending me pictures of stuff they're trying out now on scrap fur, like just like the Trap Red courses we do. We tell like a lot of the kids or students, like, learn fleshing now on coon when they're $1, or on possum when they're worthless. Like, learn how to do all your fleshing and your put up now, so that if the fur market were to come back, or you get a high dollar, or a trophy, whatever, you're going to already have the skill then. And it's kind of the same with sewing fur. Like, right now you can get a lot of scrap fur. You can, make a lot of stuff out of it. And if you saw the amount of hats I have that did not make it to market because I screwed them up, like, it takes a lot of time to put all the patterns together and learn what you got to do. So I have a lot of totes of hats that nobody will ever see. It was like, until I found that my perfect niche, I guess. So yeah, there's definitely a learning curve, but why not? Fur's not marketable otherwise. So
right.
I think too, I think you had mentioned in an article, and Groenwald is trying to market fur as this green, sustainable product over synthetic garments or whatever, and that very well could be a very positive future for this if we can bridge the gap between this negative idea or negative perception that fur has. If we can get beyond that and change some minds, that potentially we could. I don't know if we'll ever really have a North American market like we once did in the 70s and 80s, but it would be nice to at least think about that, I guess, and
recoup some of it.
At least have some more acceptability of it, So, but.
And people will say what they want about like celebrities like the Kardashians and all these rappers and stuff, but they're like promoting real fur. Like, they're like, on Instagram, you look up some of these people that are rich just because they're famous just because they're rich, but they're promoting like real fox and real, and it's just like, I'm like, we need to embrace that, because the younger generation coming up, that's what they idolize, and you can kind of normalize it. But then, since COVID, the price of a goat, you can't get a goat for under $300 anymore. People are all like homesteading and like trying to self-sustain, and they're trying to make their own leather goods, and fur falls right into that. Like, I raised some ranch fox, and I just pelted them like in the last week or so. And all these people saying like, how could you do that? And I compare it to, you raise a beef calf and you butcher a beef calf, right? And you love it, and it's really cute when it's little, and you take care of it, but you kill it, and who cares if it's for fur or meat? Like, what is it? I don't really get the difference. So
Yeah.
Trying to like change that, even with people that are like, you raise them just for the fur, and I'm like, you raise them just for the meat. So I don't know.
Yeah.
We're still consuming it in some way or fashion.
Yeah, it's and on the other side of it, look at, I guess in Wisconsin, selling a deer hide is probably a tradition more than it is here. There are definitely people that buy deer hides here, but it's more through the processors. So in other words, the average deer hunter doesn't go sell his skin, which I think in Wisconsin, that's probably a lot more common. But I guess my point where I'm going is, so you kill a deer and you discard the skin. It's not unusual to see them just laying in the ditch or whatever, which is purely acceptable. And you keep the meat.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? It's like you can flip it. And so if you have a raccoon and you keep the fur, but you discard the meat, then there's something wrong with that. So, but.
Yeah, I never got it. And people don't, they have to be receptive to even, like, they have to be open-minded to even get what you're saying. But, I will compare trapping a coyote. How's that different than trapping a mouse or, like in your house? You're still trapping it and killing it. So what does it matter how big it is or what it is? Like, it's the same exact thing,
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. People just, with the invention of the internet, people think that their opinion matters and that their opinion's right. And it's just, sometimes it's mind numbing that you're like, well, you can do this, but I can't do this. So,
well, yeah, I mean, you're entitled to your opinion.
I'm all about educating,
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the whole key to all of this, So, I mean, clearly we got this idea that you're entitled to your opinion, but you're not really entitled to your own set of facts. So, it's
well, and that's why I love those hand and trap videos. I do those. I haven't done them this year. I probably should on my next catch, but I just love it because, like, if you tell someone on the internet, or I mean, not really in person, but if you tell someone on the internet, like, oh no, those traps don't hurt, and they'd be like, yeah, they do. They'll break your hand if you stick your hand in there, and you're like, no, you're an idiot. Like, that's not gonna help anything, But if you put a video out there saying, no, look, and I do, like, sometimes I'll go to the schools, back when you could go into the schools, the fair presentations, I bring all my pelts and skulls, and I always bring a trap and stick my hand in it. And it just goes so far. Like, I've been trapping a lot of landowners, and the neighbors would come over, like, complaining. And they're like, what if you stick your hand in and see how it feels? I'm like, okay, and just do it right in front of them. And it's just, that's the only way to change minds, is to, like, you have to prove it. You can't just name call and make claims without backing it up. So just, like, take the time. A lot of our trapping groups, they're not willing to take the time to educate those non-trappers. They just say, oh, they're dumb. They'll never get it. They're antis and blah, blah, blah. But they're not really anti-trapping. They're just ignorant to the facts. So why not take some time to educate them,
Right. And a lot of that, is requires some level of tactfulness and some level of trying to answer where they're coming from, or trying to understand instead of just blowing them off or maybe putting them down, or the whole thing is
just like with our wolves, like, you see, I can't stand it when I see hunters and trappers say the SSS, the shoot, shovel, shut up, just kill them all or whatever. Like, how is that going to get us a wolf season? It just doesn't make any sense to me how someone who wants us to have a wolf season is going to, promote illegal activity. But then why would you want to, eradicate a species? We shouldn't be so arrogant to think, we trap coyotes. We're never going to get rid of coyotes. You might think that you're lessening the population on a, you're just maintaining, right? They're breeding as fast as you can trap them. But still, when you're promoting all that, like, you're not doing anything to help get us a season, So right. I don't know. It's really hard. I talk a lot about, I would rather talk with an anti-trapper for an hour than with a hunter or a trapper that is against ethical, like, predator control or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's easier to talk to someone who doesn't know anything about trapping and educate them than someone that's just, I don't know, arrogant, I guess.
Well, I mean, those people that are unethical are the ones that the opposition to us keys in on. I mean, typically, if they bring up something that they don't like about trapping or whatever, it's usually something that is at minimum very unethical, and usually it's illegal. So it's well, there's already laws in place for what they're bringing up, but that's that's kind of beside the point. We were at Indiana had a proposed bobcat season back in 2019, which unfortunately was withdrawn because of public outcry, and the trappers were not particularly well, the trappers to a certain point were organized, but we didn't have any contingency groups that were working on our behalf. So the next time it comes around, I think we will. But at one of the public comment hearings, one guy in favor of the bobcat season gets up and the last thing he says is kill them all. And it's like, so whatever was said by a number of everyone in the room that made complete rational sense basically was shot in the foot by this one ignorant statement. It was I don't know, it's so frustrating when you have that mentality. And here we are in a public hearing with a lot of opposition in the room, and someone actually says that in the microphone. It's just very frustrating.
And I've come to realize that when you look at a house cat, like when people look at a bobcat, they don't see it any different than their house cat, or they look at a coyote and they think it's their German Shepherd. Like they can't differentiate like we can. Like I've never looked at a wolf and thought this looks like a husky. Like to people that aren't kind of in this lifestyle, like they equate our pets the same as these wild animals. And so yeah, you can't be talking about stuff like that because it's gonna tug on their heartstrings.
Right. Well, and there's no sustainability behind that kind of statement, even though he may have not 100% literally meant that. It was just something stupid to say, but it doesn't matter. The damage has been done. So yeah, and Justin's sitting here with the cat on his lap right at the moment. So
what's this one worth on the
like
market?
that dragon quest or whatever.
Yeah.
You may know Sean Rossler, the biologist for Wisconsin.
Yeah. Yep.
So the interesting thing is we had him here in Indiana for a short period of time, 2 or 3 years, and he actually got us our bobcat season, our otter season, and then he left our state to go to Wisconsin. So we have some.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so we have some history with Sean. So.
Yeah, he got us. We used to have to wait like 3 years to get one otter tag. And yeah, I guess he was probably the one because it was about time he got in there. Now we get 2 otter tags every single season. You don't have to apply for it. So yeah. I bet you that was him.
Yeah, because the way ours is set up, every trapper gets the opportunity to catch 2 otters until the quota is filled for the state. So everyone has the opportunity without applying for a tag. You just go catch them, and then once the quota is filled, then the season's over. So, and that I'm sure that was his. That was all under him when he was here to get that season through. So, I kind of like the idea of doing it that way versus the states that require a specific tag or a draw to get a tag. That way, everybody's got an opportunity, and then but all states do things differently. So you guys, so do you trap fishers then too?
Yeah, our bobcat population and wolf have exploded, and our fisher and gray fox are like non-existent. I had a fisher tag, so I get a fisher tag like every other year, and since I've been trapping, like I filled my fisher tag except for last year, or 2 years ago, and this year I haven't even seen a fisher track or anything. So, I have a couple sets out, just in good areas, but I'm not setting on sign. I don't know. They're it's hard to come by. I'm not really sure the reason. All I can think of is just the bobcat population is so high, and they're pretty much the same habitat, same food source, and everything. So, because they're pretty disease resistant, I believe. So I don't know. And it's not like here in Wisconsin you can't shoot fisher, you can't run hounds on fisher. It's only a trapper's. You can't even dispatch them with a firearm because they have to prove that it was trapped only. And not a lot of people are, out there trapping. So I don't know. It's kind of a hard animal to come by lately.
Is that just in your area, or is that statewide?
I think it's just in my area. I think, like I said, just from my experience the last 5 years, it's just the bobcat population is so high that I think it just, the fisher here, they really love rabbits and squirrels and turkeys, and all the bobcats, are kind of the same food source. So I don't think there's a state where everybody else seems to be filling their thing. It might just be me, to be honest. Maybe I'm just not on my game. Everybody else in the state seems to be doing just fine. So
it's interesting that gray fox, we in the 70s and 80s, we had a lot of gray foxes here. And I don't know exactly what the percentage was that was caught versus red fox, but it was fairly significant. I mean, it wasn't, reds were still the majority, but and it depended on the area of the state that you were in. But our gray foxes have been in decline a number of years. And it kind of coincided with coyotes moving in. But, you know, it doesn't completely hold true. So we've actually got a fairly extensive study, a 3-year study that's going on here to kind of put some answers on actually the reason for the decline in gray foxes. And some of it may be just completely natural and may go back to levels of prior to in the earlier 1900s or 1800s when there may have not been that many gray foxes here too. It may just be the way we just hit a spike in those few years. But anyways, we've got this study going on that's this will be the second season. So it will kind of be interesting to see what the actual outcome of how that study goes, because you had mentioned grays are in decline in your area, and a number of states have seen that. So it's I don't know. It's they survived all the trapping pressure of the 70s and 80s during the fur boom, and it seems like once and that was the same for muskrats here too. Once the fur pressure, the trapping pressure kind of eased up, then we started having some issues with population levels, which clearly was not related to trapping pressure. So and clearly things have changed. We've got bobcats now. We've got way more otters. We've got a lot more beaver. We've got a lot of species that are thriving very, very well. But for some reason, muskrats are declined some in most farm ditches. They're in ponds and marshes. And then gray foxes, for some reason, they didn't, like I said, they're doing the study. So it's kind of interesting to hear that other states have the same issue too. So.
yeah, I think I've been trapping for 12 years or so, 4.5 months a year. I have sets out. I've only caught one gray fox in my life. So yeah. I mean, you'd think that I would have caught a lot more. And I know people talk here in Wisconsin, like back in the 70s and 80s, if you caught a coyote, like you took it to the gas station, it was like a big deal to see a coyote. Yeah. So I don't know if that makes an impact. I mean, obviously I wasn't born yet I don't know a world that isn't high on coyotes, but yeah, I don't know. I was just telling someone the other day, the state put out like some license plates for endangered species, and they have the wolf on there, and they're not endangered anymore. And I just was talking about, isn't that kind of misleading? Like, I know maybe they're a conservation success story, but like if someone sees that license plate, they're going to think those are endangered. They're never going to get a season. Like, think about this better. But the snowshoe hare, I've never seen a snowshoe hare in my life, and I do I'm in the woods 360 days a year, and there used to be little pockets back in the 90s where there was no bag limit. You could go get 10, 12, 15 snowshoes in a day. And now, like I said, I've never seen one. Nobody knows where they're at, and it's statewide. And so I'm like, why doesn't anyone care about this small game animal? Because I'm guessing it goes into the money thing. Like, people don't care about rabbits or squirrels or whatever, but should we be worried about native species that's like gone? Do we have to wait until they're extinct to even care? So I don't get it. I don't work in the right department, the right field, I guess, to understand it. But that's what I know about gray fox. It's like there's no study in Wisconsin. Nobody seems to care. So you have to wait until you can't find a single one before they do. I don't know how it works, I guess.
Yeah, I guess most of the biologists know each other from state to state, and I'm assuming this study here in Indiana will get a fair amount of attention, and hopefully other states follow suit then. So if it's quite frankly, if it's not a deer, turkey, or largemouth bass, it's just not going to get a lot of attention. It's
Oh man, I can't believe the fishing. You know, we have our spring conservation congress where you know you can vote, you can make proposals to the DNR board for changes, and then we can actually vote on them as a public in April, and then the DNR board takes those voting considerations in when they change regulations, which is kind of a cool thing that our state does. They still can say whatever they want; they don't have to go off of what the voting results say, which is sometimes against the, what most people want. But I can't believe like the controversy of fishing and bass and walleye. And I'm like, people are like, they're like screaming at each other over a bag limit of 5 or 7 or whatever. I don't know. Fishing is right up there with deer hunting.
Yeah. And the money drives that. Clearly, more people are interested in that. More license money gets put into that. More, so more equipment sold for all of that, which relates to Pippin Robertson. So, I get it, but like you said, we don't really need to wait until something's like non-existent before we start trying to figure out what's going on, So, but.
Yeah.
So you have quite the YouTube following, and one of the tags under there, you're the Barefoot Hunter. Talk to me about hunting barefoot. Is that so you can just be quiet and not step on a stick?
So I'm in Neillsville, Wisconsin, and I bet you half of the people here are barefoot. It's kind of a little podunk town, and it's not in my town. It's not abnormal. Like if someone sees me all barefoot, they don't say anything because it's not. But when I got on Facebook, whenever Facebook started, it was like people started seeing pictures and noticed that I was barefoot, and it became like a thing. So in the internet world, it's weird, but here locally, it's not a big deal. I mean, there really is no reason. I just like to be barefoot. I'm the kind of person I don't like waiting, or I'm not very patient. Like I want to just like fly out the door. I don't want to put socks and boots on and all that, especially like turkey hunting and stuff. It does benefit me though, like early season deer and especially turkey hunting. But I'm not doing it like to just be barefoot. Like I put boots on in the winter, obviously. I'm not trying to be like that guy from that survival show out barefoot in the snow or anything. So no, it wasn't like I wasn't trying to get attention for it or make it like a thing or claim that you have to be barefoot to do this. It just was like my preference growing up, and where I live, it's not even looked at. So.
So at the gas station, do they have a sign that says "No shoes, no socks, no service"?
Well, I always remember the ones that don't have the sign, and I usually go there. But I always have a pair of flip flops in my truck just in case I need to throw them on. But yeah, 40 degrees is kind of my limit. So as long as it's 40 degrees or above, I'm always barefoot. So.
That's crazy. I'm not gonna try that. I don't think.
No, I don't ever suggest it to people because the bottom of my feet are probably like the bottom of your boots. So if you try to go barefoot, it'd be a terrible idea.
So I'm assuming you can walk across a gravel driveway with no problem.
Oh, yeah, there's nothing. So I went elk hunting in Colorado and everyone said, you can't go barefoot out here. And I did. And so far there's no terrain or anything that I can't go barefoot in. Like those little cactus things or whatever, thorn, none of it sticks in my feet because they're so conditioned that it's like leather. So you would feel stepping on a bee or a cactus. I wouldn't, so.
Yeah.
No, that's great.
Yeah.
We went to Yellowstone back in May, and I only had one pair of shoes, and I thought this trail that we were going to hit was going to be fairly short. And turns out it wasn't an easy trail. You had to like cross the stream back and forth all to get to this waterfall. And I was like, man, I don't want to mess up my only shoes that I have. So I ended up doing it barefoot, and it was like damn near a mile by the time I got back, and I was in bad shape.
Oh man, I bet. Yeah.
The waterfall was worth it. So you got any more questions, Charlie? We should probably wrap this up and get to work.
Yeah. No, I'm assuming. So you'll trap for another till January, February then.
Yeah, February 15th is our land animal cutoff, and then otter beaver season goes till the spring. So I already got one otter tag filled. I'd like to get another one just before. I have a few sets. I was really focused on deer hunting this fall. Like I didn't really trap hard because I've never shot a big buck in my life, and this was the year I'm like, I want a big buck. And I hunted so hard and I passed so many deer and I just never got a big buck. But because of that, I didn't really trap this fall. So now I have a few, well, like I said, I'm trying to get my fish tag, and I got one more otter tag, and I filled my bobcat tag early. So I have like a handful of sets out, but after this freezing rain we're gonna get, I guess it won't be working this week. Yeah, so trapping for a little bit longer. It's just we got to get some snow before I can hang a single, cable restraint or anything. So it's kind of a down year, I guess.
Yeah. Well, welcome to Indiana weather with the freezing, thawing, rain, and then snow, and then back to rain and mud. And I mean, that's just what we deal with all the time. So I got some friends. Yeah. I got some friends in Kansas that are out there trapping right now, which we're going to try to go out the first of the year to Kansas, and they said it's like a land trapper's dream because it's like everything's just bone dry, drier than normal. It's like sifting flour, and it's just awesome, so there's no moisture. You can use the actual dirt. And so
don't jinx it now.
Yeah, no kidding.
We got a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
All right, well, we appreciate you being on. I really like following you. I really do, can't say enough. Appreciate how much you do education wise for kids and women and all that good stuff. So I'm glad you were on the show with us.
Yeah, put a good face on trapping for sure.
Yeah, thanks for having me.